I listen to guys like Custom Model. I like when I listen to a coach, I want to hear him talk about philosophies and things that I don't want to hear him talking to X and O's. And so I probably would ask, let's say Coach Merck. So Coach Merck, coach. I might say, hey coach, what's happening, man? Hey man, how did you deal with Roy when he took that L? How did you help him get back up on the horse? Because Roy went to that point where he lost 3 fights in a row. How did you help him recover from that and get back to being the best Roy Jones that he could be? That's what I would love to ask.
Welcome to the Warriors Way Home podcast.
So, what's up, Warriors? Welcome back to the Warriors Way Home podcast with your boy Edmund. This is my co-host Travis here. And we have a special guest here today, somebody from my personal past, Joe Jackson, who is one of the best kickboxing coaches I've ever had the experience to train under. He was my corner man for my first ever boxing match, which was actually against one of his students. So you can imagine, man, this man has a plethora of knowledge for everybody he runs into. I want to give it up for Joe Jackson. How you doing today, sir?
Good, I'm good. It's great to be here. This is something new, so I'm hyped about this.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, we appreciate it so much, Joe, for joining us for At the Feet of the Masters, man. This is, for those who know, this is a series we're doing to introduce men to guys of influence who live that life, not just talked about it on the gram, not just hopped up on YouTube and showed some terrible self-defense things that are going to get you, done in the streets. But people who actually have done this as a lifestyle, who have trained that hard style, and are now sharing that with us in the world. So definitely appreciate you joining us for that, man.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely not a YouTube IG coach.
Yeah, for sure, man. So
yeah, don't make jokes up here.
Yeah. So you are running your current own kickboxing and boxing program that goes under JoJo's kickboxing and boxing. Tell us how that got started. What makes you want to be a coach, and how you got into that.
Well, what ended up happening was I just decided. Well, actually, a female friend of mine kept saying, "Hey, you need to." This goes back a while. Like, look, you need to start your own thing. You're doing this and you're doing this for these people and that people and this and the third. I'm like, well, I'm fine in the lane I'm in. My brother kept saying, and my daughter kept saying, you need to get your own thing going, and take it a while. So I just decided one day, all right, I'm gonna figure this out. So the name is easy because my nickname is JoJo. My auntie named me that when I was a baby. I'm a boxer by heart, and I started. I don't want to say Muay Thai because I don't consider myself a Muay Thai practitioner. I feel so. I did. My brother asked me why the name is JoJo Boxing and Muay Thai. I'm like, well, I'm not a Muay Thai practitioner. I'm more of a Dutch kickboxing, American kickboxing, as you know, with the split of Muay Thai in there. So I came up with kickboxing. I had a buddy Jeff Richards, off of that. Jeff made the logo for me, and I just said we're gonna see where it goes. And then next thing you know, the gym I'm at, SG, was like, "You want to coach boxing here? We'll pay you." So I'm like, "Cool." So it's not SG Boxing, it's JoJo boxing kickboxing at SG. Even though I don't really do kickboxing that much, I haven't taught it in a while. Because my focus has been, they have a real great Muay Thai coach there. So I've been sticking to what I know best, which is boxing. So that's how that came about, and so far so good.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. How long have you been into boxing? When did you get your start?
So I've always been in love of boxing. I believe the first fight I recall seeing was Muhammad Ali, Leon Spinks 1. I watched the fight on TV when it came on TV. Then I watched the rematch. And I remember the last Frazier fight. I remember them on Wide World of Sports arguing and tussling and this and that third. So boxing has always been my thing. So when I was a kid, I would wrap my hands in ace bandages and I walk around the house shadow boxing this and that third. So me and my mother moved to Columbus. When my mother lived in Columbus, I basically spent the majority of my childhood with my grandparents and my great grandmother. So once my mom got kind of established in Columbus, she came and she got me. And so I went I lived in Columbus, especially my 7th grade year and 8th grade year. So one of my mom's best friends, my auntie LaDonna, had a boyfriend named JC. So JC saw me fight. I got in a fight with 3 guys. They tried to jump me, and I smoked. And so what I did was I smoked the first one. I got him first, and so the other 2 backed off. So JC was like, "Well, damn, man, who taught you that?" And I was like, "Nobody. I just kind of know how to fight, you know." And he was like, "Man, you need to box." You know, he was a boxer. So then he just started teaching me. He was just like, "Look, how you do this." And this is a wild story because if you know my boxing, you know, my most potent punch is by far my left hook.
Yes, sir. Captain Hook.
And the crazy part about it was that when he said throw a left hook, I threw it like this. I didn't throw it right. It was like, nah, that's not a left hook. So he was like, okay, this is how you got to throw it. So I learned how to throw a left hook, which is wild because if you would think that I came out the womb throwing a left hook, but I did. So I trained with him for a while. Ended up moving back to Dayton, close to the end of my 8th grade year, and so I kind of just let boxing go. We used to street box a lot, body boxing, not and this and the other. So around 16, my sophomore year, I heard about this guy that had moved in our neighborhood, and he was a Golden Gloves boxer. And so I heard, this guy, this and the other, and if maybe you can have his dad, he can help you get in. So I'm like, cool. So I met him, told me who he was. Now this is in 80, I don't know what, probably 83. Still super tight to this then. So anyway, his name is Terrence Dixon. So at the time, Terrence had won 4 straight Dayton Golden Gloves. So we were sophomores, 4 straight. So in essence, we hit it off. So I go home. I'm like, look, I got a kid around the corner. He boxed this and the other. My best friend, dad was like, this guy's a natural. You need to let him box. No, it's too dangerous. He can't box. So I'm like, damn, so I'm crushed. So
yeah.
So I go down and I train with Terry a lot. I'm down there in the basement with him, hitting a double in bag. He whooping my ass because even though I'm talented, he's talented and trained.
Technique.
Yeah, I think
Technique versus talent.
He got 4 Golden Gloves under his belt. So he giving me clues. But I'm loving every minute of it. His dad is trying to convince him. They tell him no, they know. So I tell my stepfather, I'm like, look, man, I want to fight. And he like, all right. So I'm gonna take you down to the gym. So I go down to the gym. At this time, it was the Salvation Army. I go down there. I get put through the paces. I dig it. Like, yeah, we wanted to come back. I got buddies down there already. They hype because I walk in the gym like, okay, now we let's see what's going on. I go back home. My stepdad come and say, look, he natural. He could barely be good at this. No. So that was that end of the box. And I'm like, so I had to spend the majority of my childhood, teenage years doing road work with Terry. When Terry had fights come up, I would do road work with him. I would go down the basement and help him train, do calisthenics, hit the double in bag of this and then the third. So I had to sneak and do it, if you want to call it
on
that.
the outskirts.
Yeah.
The outskirts.
Learn by watching.
So my man goes on and he wins 2 more. So he wins 6 straight Golden Gloves champions. He wins from Dayton. He might be considered the best amateur fighter that Dayton has ever had. He's easily the most accomplished. When we were seniors in high school, he was on the national team that went to Sweden, Denmark, and it was 3 places they went. So back in the day, it would be the United States versus Russia, United States versus such and such. He was on the team. We were 17. He was 5th ranked in the world in his weight class. That's how good he was. And he could have been better. So the only reason he was not better was that Terry didn't like to do road work. So he would come over sometimes. We get out of school and he was, come on, man, you want to go? And he'd come over. I'm like, yeah, come on, I'll run with you. And he would come over and he'd be in the basement. The basement I'm in right now, it was just furnished at the time. And he would say, man, I don't feel like running. So what could I do? I couldn't make him run.
So you beat him up.
Right. He still me. I couldn't do that with him. He was 125 pounds. I'm like 165 to 70. I can't do it. He too quick. He slipped my zone, he stepped in the jab, bumped me, and laughed. And I should be like, damn, he would slip right on the jab and step in, hit me with his shoulder, hit it right to the body, then he would peel off, and I'd be like, damn, he would just crack up every single time. I might catch him with a force, but he'd get the timing down and he would get me. That was his signature move. And because I was too tall. I was too tall. He could just get right up under. So maybe a few years ago. So Terry, long story short, has had issues in his lifetime. He didn't turn pro. His dad, Richard Dixon, rest in peace, died of an accident at GM. Terry just went, wow, he went all the way left. Substance abuse issues, this and that, third. But during all of this, we are still homies. And just to interject something, so we joined the military right out of high school. So I ended up going to North Carolina first. Then I get put on levy to go to Germany. So I know Terry's in Germany. So when I get to Germany, I pick up it's called the Stars and Stripes. It was the newspaper for the whole Europe. I open up the sports page, and who do I see at the top of the sports page? Terrence Dixon. He is all United States Army Europe, the champion in his weight division. They got talking about him. I get another news, Stars and Stripes. There's Terry again. There's Terry again. I'm like, he over here. He rolling. He whooping ass. He doing what he did. He dominated the United States Army Europe. He's the United States European champion at, I think, again, at 125. So I don't get to by the time I get to Wiesbaden to go see him, his grandmother passed, and they sent him to Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Okay.
So another long story short, he was 2 fights away from the 88 Olympic team. He almost did. He lost 2. So the guy that won his weight class was a guy named Kelsey Banks. In the box office, he lost to the guy that lost to Kelsey Banks. He was that close.
Wow.
Yeah. His roommate, when they were on the All-Army team, training for the box office was former heavyweight champion Ray Mercer.
Yeah. Really?
Wow.
So I get to Germany after I leave Fort Bragg. I get to Germany. I'm running the so when I'm in Germany, I'm like the athletic guy for my company. What I'm saying, they need some organized sports and this and the other. So that's what I do.
Yeah, athletic director.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And we actually won the Brigade Commanders Cup the year that I ran it. So anyways, I got a homie named Pete from Cambridge, Massachusetts. Pete knew that I liked the box, that it was my thing. So it was some NCO, I can't remember his name. I just called him Sergeant Coach. And I could picture his face. We would go to the gym. We would go upstairs and we would train. And I had a few smokers. And honestly, one of the smokers, kind of easily. Nothing recorded, nothing like that. But you know how they run smokers these days. Just like, let's get together. So I think yeah. So I did that for a while. Then I ended up tearing my knee up in a basketball tournament. So I had to shut it down. So by the time I got healthy enough to where I could possibly start back boxing, it was time for me to go. I had a son. My son's mother had left Germany. She was in New Jersey. So my son so I wasn't there when my son was born. So it was like, you can I got offered like 25 grand to re-up. This is in 1990.
Yeah, damn. That's a chunk in 1990.
Yeah, it was. So I was like, nah, man, I need to go. I got a son. So I got out. I came home, basically I left the military so that I know that I could be a father to my son, because she was in New Jersey. I went back to Fort Bragg. The whole time, no matter where I went, by me being a paratrooper, I would have ended up going back to Fort Bragg. I would come to Korea, wherever I went, I would always end up going back to Fort Bragg. And I just knew that I didn't want to go back to Germany for 2 years. I didn't want to go to Korea 4 years. I didn't want to go to any of these places, because that would have meant I wouldn't have been able to be with my son. Right. So I got out. And so that basically just stopped boxing. I never lost the love for it, but I just never. So when I came home, Terry was already having issues.
Mhm.
Mm.
So he was out of boxing. He was my link. Mr. Dixon had ended up getting sick and dying, and so it just kind of went by the
Kinda all
wayside.
faded away.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he finally faded away. So then around 2001, I was like, you know what? I want to try something. I want to do something different. I'm too old to really start boxing again. So let's try something else. So my buddy was like, hey, my girl trains at this she takes Muay Thai at this gym. So I said, that sounds interesting. I know what it is. I've never been involved in it, but let's see what it is. So I go and I look up some different gyms. So it comes down to two gyms, Tama Martial Arts and Brown Institute of Martial Arts. And so what it was a schedule. It was like, okay, how can I do this? How can I get this schedule? And I don't work at the time, but I'm financially cool.
Yeah.
So but at the same time, my son this is in the summer. So it's like, okay, my son is on his way.
Off
I need to
school.
make
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, because my son lived in Kansas City at the time. So he would come spend every summer with me. And
Okay.
so I had a daughter. So, we got my whole life is centered around making sure that my son and my daughter get what they need and raised the right way. I don't want to do nothing at the time that's going to jeopardize my son coming to spend his summers with me. So I yeah. So I Brown fit the schedule. So I pop in there one day. He's just moved into this new building. He like, we got to come back. Can you come back Thursday? I was like, yeah, I'll be back. So I came back. I joined. This was 2001. I started taking that version of Muay Thai, if that's what you want to call it. About a year later, he asked me, he like, okay, I feel you can take this test and you can level up. So I took a test to level up. I passed it. And then next, I started teaching. Now, at this time I'm teaching, I really don't know what I'm doing.
Most teachers don't.
Right.
When we first start, most of us don't.
I didn't really know. I mean, I'm like on YouTube picking up, combinations to do. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing it like that. Now,
Yeah.
yeah. So every now and then I would say, okay, guess what? We're going to box. So when I say we're going to box, now we're right in my alley.
Mhm.
But I can't completely run it boxing because it's Muay Thai.
Right.
So
Got
I
the little
do that
stick
for
there. Mhm.
yeah, I do that for a long, long time. I don't even know how many years. And then just one particular day, Larry, who Ed knows, great guy, Larry Drake. Larry hits me up. He said, hey man, he said, we just got this thing called Fight Night, dating fight night. I'm like, oh yeah. He's like, yes, this is big event. And he said it's boxing. So the first thing I say is, huh? You know, and excuse my French, but I said, how y'all gonna run boxing? Y'all don't know shit about boxing. I'm hitting it with I hit it with the Roger Mayweather before Roger Mayweather. so
Right.
so he like, well, we gonna do the boxing. So I'm like, okay, I'm
YouTube.
confused,
We're
but
gonna watch YouTube.
Right.
no. So I pop up on the gym on a Saturday as normal, and in comes all these boxers. So they're like, okay, kickboxing line up. So they come to the kickboxing guys and like, what are y'all doing? He like, well, we just gonna have them take Muay Thai class for the 3 months. And at the end of at the end of the segment, at the end of the block, then they're gonna box. I'm like, dude, you can't do that. That's not how this works. so, so I take charge. I say, everybody that's boxing, come over here. And so I take them over there and I started running the class. And as I'm running the class, I'm like, damn, I know a whole lot more about boxing than I thought I knew. It just started all these years from 81 and training, watching fights and the little smokers I had, it just started pouring out. And I was like, dang. And so I'm completely amazed that I know what I know. So we run fight night. I think we run it 6 years. I think next to the last, that's when Ed pops up.
Mhm.
So I'm working with a guy named Corey. I don't really know Ed that well, but we kind of get to know each other. So Corey's a boxer, natural boxer, big. If you met this guy, you'd be amazed. How tall you say Corey's about 6'4", maybe?
6'3", 6'2",
Yeah,
6'3" around there. 'Cause we're about eye to eye.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But he's easily 300, easily. So if you see him, you think, oh, he's just fat dude. He can't do much. But he's extremely fast, extremely agile. You would be surprised
Don't
of a
sleep on the
guy
big
that's,
boy.
No,
oh,
sir.
no.
Don't sleep on the
You
big
sleep
boys.
if you sleep on him, you're going to sleep.
I say the same thing about my sensei, man.
Yeah.
He was. My mom said he looks like a sumo wrestler. I said, yeah, sumo wrestler that would jump up, turn around, and kick you in your face.
Right. Yeah. Corey was the only other dude that was like anywhere near my size. And mind you, I was still probably about 40 to 60 pounds lighter than him at the time. But I had to worry about it. I was like, oh no, this because he's got more power than me. He knows how to use it. It was insane when I first ran into him for sure.
All of us. Because you see him and you just don't think that a guy this big. And he has extremely long arms.
Mm-hmm.
He can stand and touch his knees. He can stand like that. His hands will touch. That's how long his arms are.
Those orangutan arms.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So in that essence, you have to worry about his speed, his mobility, and you got to gauge. You don't even. What I'm saying is this: you would think you're out of range, and you're not because he can still hit you. So Ed pops up. We all train, and they pick teams, and Ed is on my team. And I'm like, shit, that's an automatic L. Ed is not going to beat Cole. Nobody is going to beat Cole.
Right.
So I'm the coach. I got to make sure Ed is ready.
Right.
Fight night, Ed wins. He almost kicked him too.
I
Remember
did.
that, Ed?
I was so used first of all, I was used to karate and kickboxing and MMA, and then he got me up against the ropes like the third round, and I'm like, I need to get myself out of it. I lift that leg up, and I was like, oh wait, I can't do that. So this, and I've seen people actually like throw kicks at boxing matches before, and it's like it's not a good look. But yeah, I got the video. I'll show you one day, Travis. But man, I was like so close to lifting that leg, and I was like, I
Yeah,
can't. But that's how good he was. Man. I had to
yeah.
revert back to my old stuff.
Forgot where I was for a sec.
For real. For real.
Body. He's a beast to the body. Um, he that body work is a page out of when I was kids because when we were kids, we used to body box a lot.
Mm.
You know, fists. You stand in the street and you just bang to the body. So people ask me like, how do you get so good going to the body? I got it from that because that's what we did as kids. You could have a beef with somebody and say, well, look, we ain't really gonna fight it all the way out, but we gonna body box it. And so you body box and you work it out.
Oh yeah.
So as each fight night came, I got more adapt at coaching. I came up with better. Okay, well, next fight night we're gonna do it this way. Next fight night we're gonna do it this way. I started, okay, well, guys would come in and say he was. I said, okay, fight orthodox. Well, I feel better southpaw. Okay, I've been blessed with the ability to box orthodox and southpaw, so I knew how to work that in. And I had guys win that I really didn't think would win. Every year, fight night told me that and people outside of fight night was like, this is the best we've ever had because they had a actual boxing gym that ran it before. And they was just like, it was not the same because I don't think they taught people how to box. They just taught them how to punch. And
Yeah.
if you know me, I'm a stickler for the fundamentals. I was taught, stands, footwork, punches. You build a fighter from the feet up. And I think they was come in and they was immediately hitting mitts. And that's not how I was taught how I ran it. And I think the last one we had was a sold out crowd at Field Memorial Hall in Dayton, Ohio. I think it was well over 3,000 people. The last fight night we had was February the 20th, the last weekend of February. And then like 2 weeks later, COVID hit, and that was that.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Man,
COVID shut down a lot.
those memories when they come back, man, that whole experience of between me and Steven coming to the gym for the first time just because like our other homeboy wanted to make sure we had a place to train because our original gym got shut down to being a part of fight night, learning so much from you and Corey and all the other coaches, man. It was a crazy time because we got everybody to help each other out with other fights outside of that too. You know what I'm saying? You helped me get ready for Columbia, which I'll always be grateful for that. It just kind of it taught me how to and that was for kudos, but it was definitely like teaching me how to get my hands together. I think was the most important part because I still practice some of the drills that you taught me, like how to make sure my hooks are more compact but within my reach so that I'm not messing up my shoulders, which is how that happened in the first place. You know what I mean? Or making sure I had stamina, even though I was a big guy, so I could move the way I needed to, cut the angles properly, man. Like when you think about your time and your history and how you approach a new fighter kind of coming in for the first time, what are some of the things that you try to consider, or like how do you differentiate? Actually, no. The better question is, how do you take your military experience all the way to this point and like give it to a brand new person?
Well, and I want to say this, but I can't say this. Military was about discipline,
Hmm.
but I was in a disciplined environment. Now, it wasn't harsh. I was extremely loved. You know, I was told that I was loved on a regular basis. You know, might not have been hugging you, loving you, but look here, I love you. You know,
Right.
Mhm.
so long story short, I was adopted. So the family that I grew up with was my adopted family, even though later on in the line I know my biological family. So people on the outside said he don't look like them. He can't be in that family. But if you saw me and how I am with that family, you would say that's his family.
Hmm.
So when I joined the military, keeping your clothes clean, you know, staying well groomed, that was easy, you know, because you know, we ironed our clothes. You know what I'm saying? We cleaned our clothes, we made sure everything was straight. This is the type of things we did. So the structure, what I learned in the military was that I learned that I was a leader. Um, when I got to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. So I joined the military. I joined the Army Reserves first. I was 17. So I went to basic training
Hmm.
between my junior and senior in high school. So I get there and they make me a squad leader. So, or actually in field artillery, it's called a section chief.
Hmm.
So I really didn't want it, but they gave it to me. I'm like, okay, I can handle this. So that's kind of showed this. So then when I went to school, I was a platoon guy. I had a whole platoon that I had to take care of every single day. I had to get them up, you know, make sure they were up, make sure they were in formation on time, had accountability to everybody, had to march everybody to chow, had to march them to the school, had to make sure that everything, they was in PT formation, everything needed to be done. The barracks was clean, I had to do all of these things. So I learned how to run something. I learned how to organize it and make it work.
Mm.
When I Fort Bragg, um, after I went to jump school, I got to Fort Bragg. I was a section chief. Uh, I was 19. Um, I remember I can't remember his name. The platoon sergeant said, "Jackson, we're gonna make you the section chief." I'm like, I don't want to be section chief. You know, I'm 19 years old, man. I'm trying to run the Raleigh. I'm trying to chase women. I don't want the responsibility.
Right.
Right.
I remember him particularly saying, "It's not a democracy. I'm not asking."
The dictatorship. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
so that came into when I got to Germany. I ran a program, so I was in a leadership position everywhere I went. So I kind of knew how to deal with different personalities. I knew how to kind of make things work. I know how to deal with people who, you know, some people may not be. And I think one of the things is that people that don't have the motivation or discipline or dedication, you got to figure out how to get that out of them. I'm not a rah rah yell and cuss guy, so I'm like, okay, how can I make this? I learned how to make this get my point across without actually getting my point across. If you get what I'm saying.
Right.
So but like now I'm at SG, and so when people come in, just the other day, matter of fact, Friday, guys showed up, and so I have a whole 12 round warm up that we do.
Mhm.
So he got on shoes, so I'm thinking like, well, maybe they wrestling shoes, but he got on shoes. So you know, if you come to a boxing class with some shoes on, I'm like, okay, well maybe he knows a little bit. And so I asked him, I said, well, you know, so it's like, okay, after they skip rope, okay, footwork. I'm like, do you know how to move? He's like, no. I'm like, okay, so then this is the question I ask everybody. So what are you looking for out of this? Why are you here? Um, he said, I want to learn how to box. I said, you sure you want to learn how to box? He said, yeah. I said, okay, I got you. So I put him on a line drill. It's lines in the mat. And I'm saying, so get in your stance. I show him how to get in stance, how to hold his hands. You got to move up and down this line. Move up and
Mhm.
down this line. Move forward. Tell them how to pivot, come back. Move forward, come back, pivot, move forward, come back, move forward, come back. I had two females a couple of days ago ask me the same thing. They was in there. And I'm like, well, what do you want? Well, we want to learn how to fight. We want self-defense. I said, cool. And so I said, but if you're here For cardio boxing, you're in the wrong spot. I
Yep.
can't help you. We're gonna do this how we're gonna train, and I'm gonna teach you according to how coaches train boxers.
Mhm.
You know, fighters are supposed to be trained by their coaches. I said we build this from uh the feet up. So the structure of running and being in charge of something that I learned in the military is what helps me. It helps me because I know how to deal with people without being an ass to them. I ain't got to yell at them and cuss at them. I'm not going to get in Gale drop, none of that.
Yeah.
So it helped out a lot. Um, just coming in, knowing what to do and how to do it. Being where I'm supposed to be when I'm supposed to be there.
Mhm.
That's a thing that was stressed in the military. If formation PT formation at 6, when we say company attention or military in the fit artillery battery attention, you need to be.
At attention.
On point. Yeah.
So that helps a lot. With me, it's just the organization and having to deal with people and knowing just structure. That's what I get the most from. And I just know how to do people. Like I said, I got a crash course from 17 to 19. So I was in the military. So again, I joined when I was 17. I joined the regular when I was 18. So I had that whole time. Everywhere I went, I was to where you have to learn how to do this. And
Yeah.
so far, so good.
Nice.
So far, so great.
There you go. So, I definitely want to circle back on something you said about when you left Germany, you had that chance to re-up, but you decided to make yourself a priority. And I gotta give props on that because I grew up in a military family that I knew a lot of guys who would not have come back. They would have been in Germany and be like, I'll see you when I see you. That deal. And it's I think I meet a lot of guys, especially from what I've noticed, a lot of guys I meet in combat sports and different things like that. While the combat sports and everything is a big part of their life, the other big part of their life is the family piece. It becomes a huge piece. I don't really know a lot of guys who run in these circles who are delinquent dads. Let's say. Our dads who don't show up for their kids, who aren't dependable. It almost becomes a package deal with a lot of people that at least the ones I meet in combat sports. So I definitely want to give props on making that decision and making that choice. You might want to throw 25 grand at you. A lot of guys have been took that thing and run, and they're like, "Hey, man, I'll see you in the summer." And just been like, "Hey, I'll buy you whatever you want and do all this and do all that," but kids need time. It's just like at the end of the day, they're gonna remember the time they spent with you more than the things you bought them. So I definitely want to get props on
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And so I'm gonna say this. So when I got to Germany, now I was a particularly typical wild kid. I had run around. I was all these things. I was wild, wild. High school, I was wild. I had plenty of women tell me I was a womanizer, which I didn't like. I had a female, one of my buddies, girls told me she was trying to keep her friends away from him. Stay away from Joe. He's a woman. And this the other stuff. I didn't have a steady girlfriend because I knew I was going to the military. I had seen guys get their hearts broken when I was in the military. I remember when I was in Fort Sill, I seen guys get these Dear John letters. They're not even,
that.
we're still we're in reception station. We hadn't even got to the battery yet.
Right.
And it's
Can't
like,
wait.
yeah, so, he like, you want to get fitted for you going to get fitted for the uniforms. And they get letters because I think we was in reception station maybe a week or maybe 2. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But I see guys getting Dear John letters, and I was just like, damn. I mean, they was like crushing. I was like, ooh, I can't have that. So
She had that letter ready. She had that letter.
Right.
It was already written. It was already written out. She didn't wait till
It's been 38 minutes since I've seen you, and I can't take it anymore.
She didn't wait for your side. She didn't wait for your side of the bed to get cold.
Right.
right. So I saw that, guys crying about that when we was in basic training. Man, and they couldn't take it. And I'm like, wow, I don't want that. I was having too much, just, you know, as Joe Pesci said in Goodfellas when his mom said, get a girlfriend. He said, I have a different one every night. You know what I'm saying? I was having fun. So at Fort Bragg, it was the same. I'm running the colleges, having fun. I get to Germany, it's kind of the same. But Germany was a little different because it's not the United States.
Mm.
So you don't speak the language, you don't know the culture,
Right.
the money thing. So one of my roommates came and he said, hey, um, he had a girlfriend. He was like, I'm hooking up with her homegirl. So I'm like, cool. So I meet her, we kick it off, we doing our thing, but at the same time, I'm really not settled. I'm still wild, but I ain't wild. I'm not acting wild, but I'm still that same person. I'm looking like, okay, I'll be here I'm gonna do these 2 years here, I'm gonna re-up. Uh, I was thinking of changing my job to a combat engineer or combat medic. I didn't know which one as of yet. So I said, I'll re-up and I'm gonna go back to Bragg, you know, maybe go to Ranger school. I had to learn how to swim, which I didn't. Maybe see if I can get into the Ranger team. So one particular day, my son's mother walked in and she said, I'm pregnant. And that completely changed my whole perspective on life right then and there. Just those
Mm.
two words. So I said, okay, Joe, it's time to man up. Can't be the silly, ignorant ass kid that you've been. You already, I think at the time I was 22, like you 22, not 18, tighten your pants up, son. Tighten your boots up, let's roll. From that point on, my whole focus was my son. She left Germany either late 89 or early 90. So I was still there, um, being me. But at the same time, in the back of my head is I got a kid coming. I got to slow
Mhm.
my roll. So tear my knee up. I'm rehabbing. I'm working in the gym, running the thing. And she called me one day and she like, guess who's here? And so we didn't have a name yet, but I knew my son. I knew it was gonna be a boy. I don't know how you don't get me how I knew this. I never even looked at girl names. Um, so she calls me. So I have Yusef picked. I don't know if anybody remembers Yusef Hawkins, kid that got killed in Bensonhurst. Like he went to Bensonhurst to buy a car and
I think
he
I know
got
what you're talking
shot.
about.
Wow.
It's a documentary. I want to say on Netflix. You look it up, Yusef Hawkins. So yeah, so I was gonna name him Yusuf. My name being Joe, you know, Islamic version. So at this time I'm reading, I'm kind of into the gods and earths. I had read Malcolm X book. So Malcolm X book was a huge eye opener for me.
Mm.
Still by far the best book I've ever read. I read that book at least once a year, every year. I had heard of Malcolm, but I didn't know much about Malcolm. I
Right.
read that book and I was like, wow. As soon as I read the book, I immediately stopped eating pork. This is 88, late 88 when I read the book. Completely changes. I mean, this book completely changed my whole frame of mind. Um, so when she tells me this, so then I'm thinking I got a friend named Jamil. So Jamil, Joe, Jay, and there's a doctor in the Nation of Islam, Dr. Abdul Ali Muhammad.
Mm.
So what do you want to name him? I said, well, name him Jamil Ali. So that's where my son's name came from. But up until that phone call, I was gonna name him Yusuf after Yusuf Hawkins. But I think the J is what made me change that. So that's all I was hyped about. I couldn't, I met a real nice female over there at this time, but at the same time, I'm like, I gotta go home and I gotta go see my son.
Wow.
Um, my adopted father, when him and my mother broke up, he just got ghosted.
Mm.
He was around, but what I mean by around, he was in the city. He wasn't around me. I didn't see him much at all in my
About
formative years.
what age was that about?
I think I was 3 or 4.
Oh,
My,
so that's
yes,
yeah, early, early. Ooh.
yeah, my earliest memory is actually of him, not my mother. Um, so I'm named after him. I just don't have his middle name. My middle name is named after my great grandfather. So he wasn't around. He would try to, he would. So then he popped up around maybe 15 or 16, and I would go over to his house, and with my stepbrother and stepsisters, but there was no vibe. I never even had a conversation with him.
Mm.
And I don't know if the thing that got me because he felt forced, he felt obligated. I don't know. I got child support, so the child support check came to me, and that's how I was given to me, put it that way, and that's how I had lunch money and things of that nature.
Mhm.
So, long story short is that when my son was born, I didn't know what to do, but I knew what not to do.
Mm.
Right. That's a
So
big
the
thing.
goal was always to make sure that my son didn't go through that. I made sure that I'm gonna be here for this kid when it's ups and it's downs, no matter what it may be. I'm never not going to be involved in his life, and I didn't want my son uh, to look at me the way my big brother and I, because my father had a son from a
Mhm.
previous marriage before he
Mhm.
married my mom, and that's what made that stuck with
Mm.
me.
Yeah.
Again, when she came in and said she was pregnant, my mind went from being all the way out here to right here. And
Mm.
Yes, sir.
it's been nice. My son is 34. I talk to him on a regular basis. He's married. He's in the military. He's actually stationed in DC.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, every summer he came. We split custody. No courts involved.
Mhm.
And up until it was time for him to go to school. So when he started going to school, then he would just come spend every summer with me. He
Okay.
was living in, and him and my daughter are tight. They talk about when he comes and visits. We all just sit around and talk about my mother. Their grandmother, my adopted grandmother, all the great times he had. His mom used to send me all his school work. I still got like his school work, his report cards, got all this stuff in the thing. And one of the they asked him what was the best time of the year, and he said in the summer when I go spend the summer with my dad.
Oh man.
Oh man, I bet that.
It's crazy because having become a father myself, man, it's like you definitely see where those transitions happen. And you take the example of whatever type of father figure you had before and what they had to learn from their father figures. Like I don't know my granddad on my dad's side because he wasn't a good dad to my dad. Had other kids and kept him away from his family. He's like my current family or whatever. So my dad did whatever he could to make sure he was the best dad to me. But then my parents didn't work out. So like I get to see him when I see him type of thing, but he was always the forefront as best he could. Now that I'm a dad, it's like I don't want to be out of his sight. You know what I mean? Like, I want to make sure he always has somebody to look up to and that example, and I can pass down what I did and didn't have to him, so that hopefully he grows up and doesn't even realize that there was some type of disconnect that I had to go through. I not shield him from it, but just make sure he has the best example possible. So I think you did the right thing, man, because it's like for him to be able to say that, you wouldn't have that if you were out in Korea or Germany and wherever else. Even if you were able to take him with you, it's best that you're doing that together and not just, hey, I'm off working and then we can do some stuff on the side. Like fatherhood is a whole trip and a half, man. It definitely switches something in your mind during that time.
Said this. We call a lot of things good and bad, mostly good.
Mhm.
But the best thing I've ever been called is dad and pawpaw because I got grandkids actually.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
hear that. Um, hey pawpaw, get a text. Hey pawpaw. Hey dad. Nothing beats that.
yeah.
By far. Son, father. I'm not taking father back because that goes into dad. But being a son, being a brother, being cousin, uncle, all that's good. Nothing beats being called pop because my son calls me pop. My daughter calls me dad, and my grandkids call me pawpaw.
Mhm.
Just, uh, nothing can beat that, man. I mean, I'm glad it was an easy decision to me. It was the only decision to make. Uh, I didn't. I saw my mother struggle. My mother struggled mightily
Mhm.
for years, uh, which is why I spent a lot of my time with my grandparents because some things went left for her, and it took her probably till my son was probably born. My son was probably 4 or 5 years old that she finally figured it out and got herself stable. She wasn't on drugs. She wasn't none of that. She just could never. She couldn't hold a job. She struggled. She in Columbus. She here. We moved to Columbus. We live in. The years I'm in Columbus. Every time I went back to Columbus, we was in a different place. She moved like 4 or 5 times within that same year. My third grade year, we moved 5 times. How I went to school, but I guess I can say this: education was always important. My mother didn't graduate, and my father, as far as I know, he stopped school when he was probably like third grade. He's from Mississippi. Mother died when they go work. But it was stressed, like, look, go to school, get your ass up, and go to school.
Yeah.
So but I had to just make sure again that I didn't want his mother, even though I know she wouldn't, she's very smart, educated, this and the other. I didn't want her maybe not even struggling financially, but just struggling with the fact that, damn, I got a kid and this dude ain't even here.
Right.
Even Terry would have sent child support money to her, I still would have been who knows where.
Right.
So, and actually, to be honest with you, so when it was time for me to leave Germany, I still had friends back at Fort Bragg. So I remember calling them saying, hey, what's going on? And they were like, hey, we can ready to deploy. We going to Desert Storm. So I would have got back to Bragg and probably would have immediately left. I went to, I would have had my little leave. Then I would have been gone.
Right. Oh, man.
So I would have been missing out because I missed his birth because I was in Germany. And so my son's mother actually went to Desert Storm. So when she was in Desert Storm, I had my son. So just both was gone. He would have had, you know what I mean?
No, there's no guarantee that you're coming back either. Yeah, I feel
Nah. I don't know if anybody got killed or I know it wasn't a much combat, but you don't know that until you get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Combat. So I knew she was gonna come back home, but I might not have.
Wow.
So,
Hey, bro.
Yes, sir.
Hey, man. How'd that meeting with your boss go, man? I know you were asking about that raise, weren't you?
Yeah, I was gonna ask, man, but we had a lot of meetings real recently, so it's been hard to kind of get her to sit down with me. But I'm working on it.
Yeah, that sounds like a damn excuse to me, bro. Because you were all hype about it last time we talked about it. When we talked about it last week, I'm gonna march right into her office and look her dead in the eyes and demand what I'm owed.
You wouldn't plus remember that.
This is what I do.
It's just she's busy. She a director, so I gotta wait. I gotta just wait my time and just get in there when I can.
Nah, man, you gotta show her, man. You gotta command that respect. We got this course. We're teaching guys how to elevate themselves, take themselves to the next, that next level in their life and their business and their career.
Yeah.
And you sitting there talking about ducking your boss, asking for what you want.
All right. So I'm gonna meet with her on Monday. Okay, give me a couple days. I'll meet with her on Monday. First thing Monday.
You know what happens if you don't? Penalty box, baby.
Right. Okay.
Burpees.
No burpees for me. I don't want burpees. So look, I know you've been in this scenario before. It's hard to ask somebody who you think is above you for the respect that you need and what you're asking for, whether it's resources, a raise, or respect. What you can do is start to build that self-respect that you need in our 8 Inner Gates course. Join us and go through 8 different principles where you can start to develop honor, respect, integrity, compassion for yourself and for others, and lots of other things as well. So make sure to hit the link in the bio where you can get to our 8 Inner Gates course and start to become the well-rounded man that you need to be in life.
So wait, told me that he had a son. I texted him how proud I was and happy for him. I asked him how little man doing. He sent me pictures. Because I like to see that. We get this misconception that we're be dads and that we're gone. And to be honest with you, of all the homies that I got and had, whether they were legit guys, street guys, I don't know many deadbeat fathers. I don't know many.
That's saying something. That's saying big.
That. And you can say the majority black man. I'm like, nah, the homies I got.
I think people say that to the wrong people. Because Ed and I, when we do our meetings, we do a meeting every week for the channel, and AJ is there at like every meeting. He's like the third member of Warriors Way Home at this point. He's at every meeting, just
Right. I'm either feeding them, just got done changing it and something, but like, and then Travis had actually pointed that out one day because we were talking about like how we were putting our first course together and whatnot. And he's sitting right here, and he was like, this is like, you start documenting this part too because he is seeing the things that he's front and center to all the changes I'm trying to make for our family. And I got a little emotional because I was like, man, it's true because like I'm doing it for him, and every time I'm looking into new information, he's right there, and it's like that is the weight of fatherhood to me. Is he is literally, even though he doesn't understand any of it, I understand that at the end of the day, like hopefully this is for him as much as it is for any of our audience members. First and foremost, it's all that.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man. Corey just had a baby. His daughter's about a year old. I check on him and ask him
So
how she
cute.
doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just I love it, man. You know what I'm saying? It's to see it, and I'm not saying we're breaking the stereotype because the stereotype is some bullshit anyway.
Mhm.
Again, we all know deadbeat fathers, but I can't. It's very few that I know. Like I said, in our inner circle, the homies that we got. I mean, it don't matter what they've done, where they've been. I've known some. I know plenty that been to the penitentiary for whatever the situation may be.
Hmm.
My homies actually caught a monster Fed case back in the early '90s. Case was so big they were on CNN.
Oh wow.
He sat down for 5. Uh,
Mm.
the whole time he was gone, he made sure that he was there, you know, present in his kids as much as he could be. Their mother had cancer while he was gone, and my man came home, got him a job. He ain't looked back. He came straight home to his kids. He never looked back. All his kids are grown now. They're doing great.
Good.
The two daughters and the boy are doing good. I see the son all the time because his stepson is actually go to the school my grandkids go to. One where they went to last year. I remember actually seeing him out, and I would stop and give him money. What's up, Lil C? And give me some money. How you doing, man? You good? Yeah, because I stayed in touch with his dad the whole time.
Hmm.
He might ask you to check on my son, say how you doing. So even though he missed that 5-year gap, he hit the ground running. He ain't never looked back.
That's real
Yeah,
community.
yeah,
Sure.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So, sorry. I was gonna say like, so being this pillar in a lot of people's lives just through self defense or being able to pass down those teachings and things like that. What are your years of experience? What changes would you observe in like, or rather, what's the most powerful transformation of a student that you've had? Would you say that you've witnessed?
What I like the most from a student is okay. I'm gonna put it this way. So I have what's called a flow drill in one of my warm ups. So I do two
Mm.
rounds. So what I do is I say, "Hey, you want to run a flow drill? Can you run it?" Like, yeah. And I said, "Attack the con," and I see them running it how I would run it. So some told me one time, brother said, a boss is somebody that runs something. A leader can have somebody do something and leave, and it be ran the way he ran it. So what I like the most about this thing is when I see somebody that's never been able to do, like say somebody come and they never thrown a punch in their life, like at fight night, and then you
Right.
see him in the ring, say, "Damn, I did that." He went from not ever, I never been to a fight. You see him like, okay, he's sticking his jab and he moving. He got his 1-2s. He carrying punches. He doing his thing. That's very satisfying. It's very satisfying when somebody comes back and say, hey, when they would come to me and say, hey, man, I couldn't have done this without you.
Mm.
What I really like again is that you can take what I was given and they can take it. I give it to them and they can give it to somebody else.
Right.
Keeps the chain going. That's one of the biggest things that I like. And there's only a few of them because everybody can pick it up. Everybody is not able to. They're not built for it. But to see somebody just be able to push it the way I push it is really satisfying. Satisfying.
You have a tree drill that you taught me way back. Anytime I like sub for somebody or lead drills for anything, that's one of the things I go back to because it just teaches you how to use both sides of your hands, or kind of you move both sides of your body that's in connection to like being able to count those punches out 1 through 6, the uppercuts, hooks, jabs, crosses, all that. And if you're used to your body moving. And I was like, damn, that's something so simple. But if somebody can get just that right, they're way ahead of the curve.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things I like to hear, and this is funny, is at the gym I was at, they had this drill called the jab exchange. And I hate the jab exchange with a passion. There's no the practicality. I get why they're trying to do it, but the practicality of it doesn't really work because if you do it, you're gonna make a mistake. So if the jab comes, you go catch the jab and jab at the same time. The problem with that is when people do this hand comes forward every single time. They don't know how to wait for the jab to come and then you jab at the. So it's like they're doing like this. And so I'm like, I explain why that doesn't work. I show them why it doesn't work. I hate this with a passion. So one day I was late for class and I walked in the gym and they were doing a jab exchange and they saw me look and they looked and their eyes got big and it's like, oh, we're not supposed to be doing this. So I hear I hear people saying that, like people was in the ring and they be like, all I heard was you saying, don't do that. Or you doing this. If I'm sparring, I think it was E said he did something the other day and all he heard, and I wasn't even at the gym. All he heard was me saying, that's not what you're supposed to do. So that in a sense makes a lot of sense because that means they listening, they heard what I was trying to get through to them, got through to them. And I like people saying, man, you wasn't even there, but I heard your voice. I heard you telling me this or don't do that. And I just hope when it's all said and done, now there's a legendary coach, was a legendary coach here named Coach Ron. Coach Ron is like, I call Coach Ron Master Yoda. I'll never reach Master Yoda status, but I do feel I'm on the Jedi Council. And when I'm not around, I want people to say, hey, man, they're not, of course, they're not going, I can never match Coach Ron, but anybody that's ever came in contact with Coach Ron speaks love for this man. I mean, absolute positive love. I have never heard a bad word about Coach Ron. None of my experience that I had him, this was back when I was a kid, when I first went down to the boxing ring. Jim was amazing. My homie Terry speaks mad love for Coach Ron. And if I can get a quarter of what Coach Ron got and the impact, I'm good.
Yes, sir. It's funny you say that because, like, if I'm on the council, man, you've been the Abbott because we're big Wu Tang fans right now. But after you taught me what you taught me, I was like, oh no, it's the Abbott. That's the man you want to go to when you get your hands right. You know what I mean? And that's the same. That's my Master Yoda to me. You know
Right. And I appreciate it. Andre says that a lot too. When they ask Andre and his punches is flowing, they be like, man, you was flowing. He said, that's Joe. Joe got my hand. It's funny because I focus. The thing is, feet work with your hands. Nobody talks about the feet part. You just talk about your hands, which is, which I mean, if you know martial arts, nobody pays attention to the footwork. They only notice the hands.
Yeah.
So, I get those compliments and it just makes me smile. That I'm doing, I'm doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. That's actually how somebody can fight. It's like somebody breaks down, you look at the feet and be like, bro, look at his feet. You don't want to fight this dude. Like, what do you mean? Like, look how he's standing. You don't want to fight that guy. He actually knows what he's doing.
Did anybody see this clip with Izzy where he was standing outside? I think it was like a Ferrari or Corvette, and the guy walked up to him in front of his mouth, and you see how Izzy positioned. Remember how he stands? And I remember
like, and go.
Yeah, I was like, if you run in your mouth and a guy stands like this, it's danger Will Robinson because he about to let you have it. He knows what he's doing. So, I tell people all the time, I didn't make none of this up. I didn't invent any of it. I was taught it. And I'm just getting back what I was taught. That's all.
Nice.
100%, man.
So we talk a lot to guys who some have had martial arts experience, had none.
What, and I usually ask, what would be if somebody was starting from scratch? Let's say a kid is getting bullied and he wants to, kid, young guy, whatever, it may be, just get bullied and wants to learn, starts to learn self defense. What martial art would you suggest? Boxing? Would it be Muay Thai, kickboxing? Martial art would you suggest him starting with?
Boxing.
Boxing.
I'm gonna tell you this, and I'm gonna tell you why. Put some babies together.
Mhm.
What is the baby gonna do first?
Go ahead.
Swing.
Ask Edmund. JJ be popping him all the time.
Nah, man, he's been
I watch JJ get the center his arms and JJ went,
So when somebody they say, "Oh, you just saying that because you're a boxer," I'm like, no. It's the first instinct is to punch. As they start walking, they kick. But the first thing a baby going, whether he can crawl or not, if he can, a baby can sit up, just about. He gonna throw the first thing he's gonna do is punch. It's easy. So when I was a kid, everybody knew that I could fight. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. But so I didn't get into a whole bunch of fights because the fights that I got into, I just whooped ass. I had one real serious knockdown dragon. My home bad one. His homie say he won. He say he won. It was one of those type fights. Just one. Every other fight that I basically was into, I just destroyed cats. And so not too long ago, we had a class reunion, and they were talking about that. Man, Joe could he was mean. He was mean. And I said, you know why I could beat everybody up? They said, why? I said, because I knew how to throw straight punches. Your dumb asses didn't. That was it.
looping, world.
They don't. That's it. I won a fight one time. I got into a fight on the block behind some illegal stuff. Fight with my jack. I do nothing but a jack. I hit him. He tried to rush me. He tried to rush me. He tried to rush me. And he was like, I quit. He quit. He couldn't get past my. It was just a straight. That's it. So I would always. So people ask me this about my grandson. My grandson was like, if your grandson wanted to be MMA fighter, what would you teach him? I said, I would teach him how to box and wrestle. You can add missions later on. You can add kicks, elbows, knees, clinch. You can add all that later on. But if I give him that foundation of a good stance, good footwork, which a lot of MMA gyms completely forget about. They didn't have no conclusion, not conclusion, but no idea about how to move. You teach, you go punching and kicking right off the rip without even teach you how to move. I would teach them how to wrestle because you can get them down. You know how to you can defend takedowns. You can just teach submissions later on down the line. You can take those two basic things. You can add any other martial art to them. And then again, I would never be proficient at Ed's art as Ed is at his art, but Ed took it in the boxing part and he worked it out. He knew how to do it. His hands got better. As soon as you're gonna fight, you're gonna throw hands. So why not?
yeah, I tell people I've yet to throw a kick in a fight. Is like in a real fight, I've never kicked anybody. I've wanted to one time. One time I have wanted to spark kick this guy in the chest, um, but I didn't. We were at a bar. I was bouncing, and we're sitting there having an altercation, and I'm talking to him. He's that I fight with, and I'm talking to her, the woman. You're not gonna fight her. Well, it's not this. She put her hands up. No, you hands up. Calm down. We're talking. I told Ed, and we're talking. And I, I'm staring at him like this, and I see him go like this. And next thing I know, I'm sitting there talking to him like this. It's like, oh, and I'm like, oh shit. And I realize I punched him in the face. And so we're going now. And so now we're fighting. We're going back towards the bar. I'm coming at him. He's going back. And I was thinking like, "Oh, get out of it." And I look, but everybody's behind him. Nah, I can't do that. Wanted to so bad though. I've never wanted to kick somebody in the chest. more in my life than I wanted this guy. But I look back and I see these girls between him and the bar, and I'm like, I can't do him like that. I wanted to real bad. I can't do it. Like I would have, if I could have, I would have went two feet on the shit. Like, trust me. But I was like, nah. But I've never, real bad, I've never had the chance to kick somebody. Other than that, it's been all hands. You know, hands. Maybe somebody grab you, something like that. Something different. Because and having that basic footwork too, 'cause, my background is I started in karate, and they gave me the basics. We drilled that so much, like how to throw a punch that you're throwing from the hip, what your feet are supposed to be placed, how your feet are when you're moving around. They drilled it so much into you that it just becomes second nature. And it's one of those things I see guys now punching, you don't even turn the hip. There's, I'm like, what are you doing?
Video the other day. I was watching one of my favorite fighters, probably my second favorite fighter of all time. I was watching Roy Jones. So my favorite fighter of all time is Marvin Hagler, and I was watching Roy, and it was like a little documentary, and they were in the gym, and it was Roy and all his gym mates and the coach, and they were shoulder boxing. He was calling shots, and they were just throwing their shoulders. And I said, you know what? I need to take that and put it into what I'm doing because it'll take the arm punch away. Because I see so many people throwing arm punches. So my warm up was 10 rounds. So my last 2 rounds is 12 now. So the last 2 rounds, we shoulder box. I get in the middle, I have everybody form a circle around me, and I'll call out shots and I'll move. I may say shuffle to your left, shuffle to your right, pivot, and I'll just call out combos. And you just have to throw your shoulders. And when you throw in your shoulders, it helps you get your hips into it. And a lot of people are starting to see the difference between arm punches and really getting your body into the punches.
For
And
sure.
like I told somebody I didn't invent it. I saw it and I was like, "Ooh, that might work," and it works. Look, if Roy, must be something to it.
Facts.
So
Huh?
it's been a fantastic conversation, a little bit like running down memory lane. It's one of the things to talk through and being able to share your experience with not only our audience, but just myself. I always feel super blessed to sit down and talk to people who have been a part of that journey or at where I want to go. Give me some nuggets along the way. Thank you so much for coming down and talking through it. One of the questions that we like to ask is to kind of wrap up, giving to uh, other outside of ask. I got a question for somebody else who have kind of reached this their journey. What would you ask another?
Let's speak up a little bit.
Yeah,
Hear me?
Yeah. Here you go.
Sorry about that. If you had to ask a question to another master or another somebody who's been well embedded into their journey, what would
um, I would ask them what their philosophy is on fighting. I would ask if I go to a guy, I'm not really trying to learn his training techniques.
Mhm.
We'll just say, look, what does this mean to you? Where how does this affect your life? Because I'm looking for guys that appreciate it, that it encompasses. You see what I'm saying? Not these guys, not the YouTube trainers. Not you see a video and the guy's only sparring and he beating up people. It's a cat I follow. I want to say JYD, and I want to say World, but he's young boxing prospect, and he talks about how he never posts sparring videos because when everybody gonna post a sparring video, you win it. You get what I'm saying? So what I'd like to know is how do you, and not only your philosophy, but how you deal with taking L. How do you get your people straight after taking an L? Because I don't care who you are, it's coming. You took one. There's no fighter that I know of that never lost. So I hit somebody with this the other day. They said, "Oh, well, Floyd Mayweather was 50 and I said, "Well, he wasn't undefeated as an amateur, so he lost."
Mhm.
how do you how do you you know I how do you deal with the loss? How do you handle your people when they down? That's what I probably would ask because there's so many different personalities. What do you do if this guy? We got a guy at the gym that took a loss in an MMA fight not too long ago, and it's 4 months later, and this fool still ain't shook it off.
Mm.
Because he wants to be a champ, but he don't want to come back to the gym. He don't want to train. He don't want to do nothing. Come on the phone. Hey, I want to get my hands together. I was gonna take him, get his hands together, take it down to the smokers at Drake, and let him get in the ring just to see. Let him take him down and let him see how boxers move, how they work their hands, how they cover distance. They're not throwing uppercuts from all the way back across the street. They're not throwing right hands to the body from all the way across the street. They're jabbing their way. He's not getting it.
Yeah.
He just won't come around. And we kind of like me and E are kind of like at which end because he has this problem and we don't really know how to navigate it. I don't know what to do. So I listen to guys like Custom Modern. I like when I listen to a coach, I want to hear him talk about philosophies and things that I don't really need to. I don't want to hear him talking to X and O's. So I probably would ask. Um, so let's say Coach Merck. So Coach Merck, Jones, coach. I might say, hey, Coach, what's happening, man? Hey, man, how did you deal with Roy when he took that L? How did you help him get back up on the horse? Because Roy went to that point where he lost 3 fights in a row.
Mm-hmm.
How did you help him recover from that and get back to being the best Roy Jones that he could be? That's what I would love to ask. You know, just how you handle some of these guys, these different personalities.
And I think that goes back to life. It's like the question is, do you want to be champion?
Mm-hmm. Well,
Is it, it's like, because I, looking back at most of the fighters, like you said, everybody's
it's
going to take it. If it hasn't come yet, it's coming.
yeah.
And it's funny because, and I think a big part of that plays like skill.
Huge part.
Yeah, but it's one of the questions like, okay, so let's take women first. It's like, you a virgin? It's like, nah, of course not. Like, okay, cool. You ever been done by a girl? Yeah. So you just don't have sex anymore? It's like, well, nah, of course not. I went back. Oh, so you got back out there and got over
Right.
it and moved forward. Right?
Yeah.
You wanted it. I think you want this. You want sex more than you want to. Cool.
Right.
Wow.
That's kind of what when you know, he said he want to be a champ, and I'm like, well, you do know champions are made in the gym, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, um, Ali has a quote where he's saying that champions are made out the limelight. You don't see how the champion when the fight happens, you just see the results of what happened before.
Yeah.
I mean, as an example, he came and he trained. He stayed in the gym. He trained, he listened,
Mm-hmm.
and then and everybody thought he was gonna lose the court. He probably thought.
I don't know. I was gonna
And
be good. I thought I was gonna get hurt.
As soon as you said, I was like, nah, he thought he was gonna win.
I knew I was
I was like, nah, he thought he was gonna win.
That's what you're supposed to say. Shit, I thought I believed I could win. Because if you don't believe it, it can't happen.
Right.
I'm glad that's good. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. He didn't say nah. But again, he said he didn't want to get hurt. But he won. And he didn't win by here. He won. He won that fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that self belief is terribly important because I mean, I've had those moments where maybe you don't take an opportunity that you know you're going to lose. Well, you still get better in the process of getting ready for it, and whatever the night is, whatever that time under the lights is, it's less important than the preparation to get to that point. All it did was give you a goal, but that power that you gain along the way that goes into everything you do. It's something that a lot of people don't understand until the moment. I've done it myself. Recently, I carried with it. There are times where you don't allow yourself to rise to that, but it's in the doing, it's in the attempt, which is better, not the win.
And I'll tell you, if you never got in a ring with Corey, you would have never known if you could have won or not.
Yeah. But now everybody else seems way more shallow in comparison to somebody who moves like you do. That's 50 pounds heavier than you.
Yeah,
You get a lot of
yeah,
people like, all right, well, somebody my size ain't gonna have it. Somebody
right,
somewhere between ain't gonna have it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That I was extremely proud when you won. After the second round, I was like, after the second, I said, shit, he won.
Yeah, help, man. I
He
don't
won
take
the
that. Yeah, I don't take that victory by it's like it was just me. I had the best people in my corner I could have, and the best opponent that I could have asked for. You know, I was telling my wife the difference. It's like we were watching a one championship or something, and she was like thinking about the weight differences. Like up until 200, there's like a 3 to 5 pound weight difference between every other class. And if you're over 200 pounds, like whoever else is over 200. So there's still not a good uh, the difference in weight classes for bigger guys. So you have to train as hard as you can because either they're not going to be up to par or they are going to be up to par and might be better than you. So it's not fair, but I think it's it happen for people like me where like, okay, well, I don't have to lose a lot of weight. I can move how I move. I just have to be better. I don't have to worry about the weight cuts and the suffering and all that stuff as much. But there's more danger along with that too. If you think about his weight and the guy is like 300 pounds, it's muscle. You know what I mean? So, good playground for sure.
Yes, that was a big man. Like, big man.
Man,
Actually,
yes,
in the amateur, his score would be a super heavyweight.
man. Mm-hmm. Yep.
There's weight, heavyweight, and then the super. So he
Yeah.
would have been you heavyweight category, and he was in super. He was,
Yeah.
you know, you don't know until you get in there.
Plus, I got a good friend out of it because I went to his wedding that next year.
Yeah,
You know
I
what I mean?
remember
So,
when you had your party to go away. I still staying how we the bond we built of those years, man, was I missed that because he's still around, but you're not there. Steven's not there. Nate's there. We don't have that community after class. Everybody spawn playing around. We don't have that. It left the gym, and the spirit of the gym, competition wise, and all that, it just left.
yeah,
But as I was telling Trav, to me it was more about the bonds that we made.
Mhm.
Many
100%.
brothers, not many brothers in the gym. Yeah, I think when you walked in the gym, shit, probably was just me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Corey, that was it. Yeah.
Hell, she's a female, you know what I'm saying? So you see you and Steve, I'm like, okay, we got some brothers in here. Then Corey coming like, okay, we moved. Then Chris came. Remember Chris? You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
See, it made it it's a great bond,
Yeah.
can be broken, and I just hope one day I look back and say, man, the Abbott, he was all right. He was a cool dude.
Yes, sir. So I still talk to you on the weekly, man. I can't let you go. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
too important to growth.
Before we let you go, man, one last question. We'll get you out of here. Super appreciate the time, by the way. Um, we usually ask this to everybody is like, if tomorrow, um, you 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 pulled a Jedi and you walked into eternity, never to be heard. What would be one thing that you would want to leave behind for your students, and your daughters, your grandkids? What would be one message you would want to leave behind them to help them move forward? Um, and
That's a question for my son and my grandson. Be a man.
Mm.
For the guys that I've grown up around, the guys like Ed and everybody else, just be a man. Um, and be a human being.
Mm.
I'm far from perfect, but I strive sometimes, and then sometimes I don't. I may wake up the day and just say, "It is what it is. I am what I am." Then some days um, I just want you to, and I guess what I want to say is, if there's something you want to do, do it. Ain't nothing to it but to do it. Give it a shot. You never know till you try.
Love
You
is
know,
that
I,
simple.
yeah, it's just simple as that. It's I'm not Master Yoda with the super philosophies. None of that. Um, be as good as you can be to people. Of course, you're not gonna be good to everybody. Somebody's gonna always think that you're doing them wrong, and you just gotta and just keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And when you die, you know, when I know when my time comes with the people that's in my life, I know this might be. I don't plan on having a funeral, but I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of people, and I just want people to say that was my guy. He was cool.
Yes, sir. 100%. Man, this has been fantastic, Joe. Well, I'd love to have you on again real soon. We have a lot of plans for the channel that I would love you to be involved with. Um, man, there's so much wisdom. Always have you always through us all, and I appreciate that. Uh, Travis, why don't you do where they can find us and how they get. Oh, well, first, Joe, where can we find you? We know you're in Dayton, Ohio. And all your social media.
Um, I'm at boxing wise. I'm at SG Brazilian Jiu Jitsu Tuesdays 6 to 7:30 and Friday 6 to 7:30, like clockwork. Um, Instagram, what's it? Jojo.boxing.kickboxing7.
Mm-hmm.
That's my Instagram. Um, I just started a TikTok page. I think it's Jojo Boxer 14.
Okay.
The fact it's kind of more personal, so I don't really push that out there like Ed you on there because I kind of leave that for family wise things,
Yeah.
But yeah, look at the Instagram page. It's not really a lot of training videos, just a lot of boxing stuff though. That page I try to only follow people that are about health and fitness. I'm very health oriented. I was that way as far as how I take care of myself and I eat. Nobody believes I'm old as I am, except me. Take care. I take care of myself very well. I eat well. And I would, and I think that's the main thing I would tell my kids and people is take care of yourself, take care of your health. Because Black people, you know, um, as you hit the 30s, the mid 30s, if you ain't living right,
Ooh, why you gotta pick on me like that? I just turned 36, so yeah.
I that's now that you said that would be my biggest thing to leave for people is take care of yourself. You only got one, so treat it well.
For sure.
Definitely, man. And we'll definitely be putting Joe's link down in the description. Check him out. You can also find us on all social media platforms: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, got X, LinkedIn here. You can also find us everywhere podcasts are found. Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, all those good stuff. And definitely check out our brand new course, The 8 Inner Gates. Just drop that. It's the foundation for men to become the best versions of themselves that they can be, whether it be in relationships, their life, career, or business, whatever it may be. Set that foundation up forward and open the gates that have been holding you back. So definitely check that out. We'll also have that link too. Joe, appreciate it, man. We definitely appreciate you joining us. Definitely stay tuned, guys, for more of these masters. Because at the end of the day, I'd much rather be a warrior in the garden, or see you guys next time, guys.
You damn forget about that. Peace.